Raise your hands if you have at least one insight that you can think of that you will roll out in the next 4 weeks. Raise your hands if you still need time. We don't have it. Okay. As we shift gears, just take a deep breath in, stretch, do a quick reset for the body, get ready. Come alive. Okay. Ready to shift gears? Ready to kick off the next session? All right. Okay, this next presenter, his name is Vykintas Glodonis. Vishen mentioned a little bit about him just in his talk. You know, he's the head of AI, he's the AI Transformation Officer. That's his current title. He's been the former no-code production guy for Mindvalley. He was heading no-code production for all of Mindvalley. And for those of you watching who don't know what Mindvalley University is, it's one of the most complex events to even wrap your head around. And he built an app that can allow you to navigate through the entire event ecosystem efficiently in 14 days without using any code. He's a master, you know, and he's a 2 times TEDx speaker. What it does is that he's also an excellent articulator of problems and teaching ideas. You know, that's one of the skills that he adopts and he expresses in every single thing that he does. And he's going to be talking about how can we use the transformative power of AI into our businesses. So are you guys ready? Can we invite him on stage? All right, please help me welcome Vykintas Glodonis on stage.
Oh my gosh, should I shout? Okay, good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for such a beautiful presentation. And let's talk about how using linked data to harness the transformative power of AI. And to start off, I would like to start from a poll to better grasp the audience today. And the first question to you guys is, can you develop applications? Raise your hands who can. Okay, we see very few hands. Okay. Then the question number 2 is, who here out of you can build Excel or Google Sheets with logic? So for instance, conditional formatting, formulas, or who here out of you can build Zapier or similar integrations? Raise your hands, please. Up in the air so that I could see. Okay, we see much more hands, maybe half or even more. Here, let me tell you a bit of my story, why I'm asking these 2 questions, and especially why these 2 questions are going hand in hand. I started off as probably the least techie guy at school and at the university. I had so much limiting beliefs, thinking that I will never be good in technology, that it is difficult, that it is very dry, that you need to learn how to code, and I will not be able to do that at any point, and therefore I will never be able to really use this transformative power of technology and artificial intelligence. But there were 2 shifts in my life that later led me to where I am today and even to this stage. Shift number 1 was, oh, such a bad quality, I'm sorry. Shift number 1 was when I was having a conversation with this guy. You cannot see his face, so you can try to imagine. But his name is Tristan. He used to be a developer for Mindvalley for many years. And I said something to him along the lines that, Tristan, I'm so jealous to you guys, to developers. You are so smart. You know how to write code, and you can create this software and applications that is like magic. You click a button and things happen, creating value automatically. And his answer shocked me and changed my life. He said, Vykintas, what are you talking about? You are already a developer. And his reasoning was that I showed him my Google Sheets that I'm building with, as I mentioned, conditional formatting, logic, if this happens, then this happens in another cell and so on. And he said that, look, man, you are already creating applications, because applications are about creating logic and value on an autopilot. it doesn't matter what kind of environment you are programming in or developing. So you don't need to know how to write code. If you use Google Sheets or Excel or Airtable or Make.com or Zapier or any other tool, if you build logic, you are already a developer. Now, I would like to get back to the first question again and ask you to raise your hands again. Who here out of you can develop applications? Raise your hands. Okay, we see much more hands, but not all of you are convinced. We saw more hands when answering to the second question. And that's totally normal. That's totally okay. But why I'm talking about this is because I believe there are two requirements to maximize the potential of you as an individual and your company in the age of technology and artificial intelligence. And this first requirement is identity, related to my shift number 1. The internalizing the truth that you can already build applications. Because it's a fact, you already build Google Sheets, Excel, and so on. And then it can be fun, because it's the life of creation and building on a daily basis. And then the second requirement is, I already told you that many of you are already developers, right? But if you implement the second requirement, which is just leveling up your game just a little bit by learning one more skill, which is building databases or linking data with Airtable, that can open up vast additional opportunities in your lives as an individual, in your companies, organizations that you're leading, and so on. Because this was the shift number 2 for me. When I started using Airtable, it was insane. Suddenly I started connecting the dots, because you need to invest time to learn it, but it's so flexible. It's not hard-coded as many other software as a service tools. And once you learn the basics, you start seeing, oh my gosh, I can use this for this problem that I have. I can automate this process. I can help my team members to save 10 hours for this process, only if we put the workflow that we are using on the database. And this was the moment when the inner child, inner creator in me was born and unleashed. And since then, I created hundreds of internal applications at Mindvalley, either optimizing systems or completely automating workflows whatsoever, and even upgraded little by little into starting testing no-code app building applications, and ended up already having built over 20 different mobile and web applications with users all around the globe, 400,000 plus and counting. So for those who are still very skeptical about no-code and you believe that you need to hire huge teams of developers, you need to invest tens of thousands of dollars into your idea or your project.
Recording stopped.
Hope. Get rid of this limiting belief. Understand that as AI has become really powerful, and you could already saw from Vishen's presentations, no-code ecosystem is also extremely powerful already, and you can do a lot with that.
Recording in progress.
And the first thing is to learn Airtable. Thank you for recording. But you may tell, Vykintas, such a beautiful story, so good for you that you mastered this Airtable thing, but why are we talking about it? Why are we talking about linked data? Who had a question like this? Raise your hands. Okay, perfect. Thank you for honesty. So let's look at some of the examples. Vishen already covered some. I will add some more, because I believe the best way is to show you different use cases, and then you can start seeing maybe you can do something in your team or in your organization. So first of all, creating your internal database or internal libraries. Vishen showed you the Mindvalley brain, right? Where you create libraries of whatever data you have. For instance, video assets, image assets, speakers, authors, content, products, pricing, markets, whatever comes to your mind, push it into one database. And then the magic is, what's the difference compared to Sheets or Excel, is that you establish a thing called the single source of truth. That's like a mantra at Mindvalley, the single source of truth. Because you see, the beauty of relational databases, when you link the data, is that if you have the single source of truth, you can use that data across any different workflow in your company, any different team, any different individual team member. And then if you change, let's say, product name on the single source of truth, and that product name is being used in 15 other places in the company, that data automatically gets updated. So it's always up to date, it's always verified. And you can pull extra data wherever you want. Let's see, Vishen was giving examples about selecting speakers for the events and so on. So it opens amazing opportunities. And try to compare with Sheets or Excel. Let's say if you have that product name on 15 sheets, what happens? First of all, you don't even know that you have it on 15 sheets and that some teams are using. And second of all, you change it in one place, but then there are 14 other places where the data is not up to date. So you cannot trust your workflows anymore. You make mistakes, and the whole system may crumble little by little. That's again the power of relational databases. And you can even choose which data you want to show just internally to use and which data to, let's say, show publicly. As here you can see Mind Valley University speakers directly from Airtable being embedded into Mind Valley University page. So imagine how much it would cost for us to hard code this solution on a page. Now we have it anyways on our database. You just plug it and it's there. We can use it for project management. You don't need to buy a specialized project management tool, because if you get how to work with data, you can do it. And in addition to that, let's say what we do have at Mind Valley is we document the project template on the database with all the different actions that need to be taken, at what time it needs to be finished or started in reference to the launch date, for instance, right? Who should be responsible? And then you just click a button and boom, you see magic happening. All the records being created and pre-filled, and your timelines are being set for you for this specific launch, because of linked data, because everything is linked and everything is talking to each other. For content planning, you're also using Airtables. For instance, now I'm delivering a 1-hour talk, right? Then once it's filmed, we can create a record on our database of this talk and come up with, for instance, 15 different content ideas or messages that we could spread on social media to repurpose this content, right? So you'd have one record of this all talk, 15 different ideas, then you set, okay, which channels and brands you want to publish it on. You click a button, boom, records are being created automatically for all the posts for different social media channels, right? Then you can, because the data is linked, you can place on top an automation to use, for instance, artificial intelligence to shorten the content for Twitter, because you know that it has special requirements. And then artificial intelligence does this for you perfectly. You don't even need to think about it. And then because data is linked and talking to each other, you can put on top an automation to post these posts automatically for you at a predefined time on all these different social media channels. And because the data is talking and linked, you can add on top additional automation, which is very easy on relational databases, to start collecting your KPI data for each of those posts. So after 1 day, how many views you have, after 7 days, after 28 days, so that you can establish a benchmark and compare how you're doing, right? And you could improve. But then the beauty is you can roll up back. So you have already on each post the KPIs, for instance, the views, the likes or something. You can roll it out and see how much particular message in total generated likes when you look at all the posts related to that message, right? Or you can roll back to all this video of 1 hour of me talking on the stage, how many in total likes or views it generated. So you see the data is flowing, information is flowing. You can interact and interconnect different workflows, and your whole system becomes more and more, as I say, beautiful. And for me personally, it's like a piece of art. You can do process automation. For instance, our Mind Valley Quest beta testing process, fully automated. You can do process automation as, let's say, we did for Mind Valley University, tribe speakers, image selection approval process for the agenda sessions. All communication with our tribe speakers and so on, it's all automated. They just need to fill the information that they have, and our people just need to reject or accept information. You can have CRM, sorry for so much red line, I didn't know what I can show and what I cannot, but you can have CRM on your table. Imagine how much you can save for authors, for your B2B sales, and so on. Prioritization and decision making you can outsource to your systems. For instance, here you can see an example of how we prioritize which next programs to localize and to which languages. So because on our database we already have a lot of data, we have all data that is necessary for us to make this decision. If we have all this data anyways, we can establish very simple rules that will just give us the answer which program to localize next and to which language. So you see, we are outsourcing decision making instead of continuously every week needing to collect 10 people and spending 1 hour, which is 10 hours in total per company, right? The decision is made for us there because of the power of linked data. I even use, this is a funny example, you can see boilers on your table. I recently was selecting a boiler for my new apartment, and I often get into paralysis by analysis. It's very difficult for me to make such decisions. Anyone else has this problem? Okay, it's so good to see that I'm not the only one. But what really helps me is I'm simply putting the data about the boilers to your table, set very simple rules to give me the answer, and boom, decision is made for me. So I don't need to get into paralysis by analysis anymore. We have dashboards, we have recognition of people. For instance, we used to have 7 Geese, a platform, that we are paying tens of thousands of dollars every year for that. Now we just rebuilt all of those features on your table. So imagine like you use Rike, you can rebuild it. You use Bamboo HR or some other platforms. You can rebuild majority of the features on your table. OKRs and tracking, budgeting, product roadmap, change log, feedback analysis and collection. You can have it as well as a workflow. And on top of that, you can as well connect, for instance, artificial intelligence, that when you receive feedback, maybe AI can draft a response to you, to the person who provided feedback. Or maybe AI can automatically categorize who has had issues when you open hundreds of feedback records and you need to categorize or tag manually and how difficult the job is. Anyone experience this? I did. So you can give this to AI. AI can do this even better for you, and in just a few minutes because you have it all on a database. We have production on your table. We built some quizzes that Typeform was not good enough and so on the table, and many other things, right? And even at some point, you can move a bit more to become into entertaining field of even using your table for customer-facing applications. So Vishen already mentioned that, let's say we have Mon Valley University app where backend is fully on your table, and I just use the different app builder that you are using on your phones, right? And imagine, again, like, because the data is linked, how beautiful it is that our team members, whatever they change on Airtable, that anyways they use as a tool to set agenda, work with speakers, and so on, all that data is then instantly available on the app for you guys. Now, compare if we used 2 separate tools, you would need to copy-paste. There would be lag, there would be mistakes, and much more manual work. Or let's say Mon Valley Quest outcomes app backend is on your table, but you can see the user interface is built on a different platform. So, of course, you may tell that, Vykintas, you provided so many workflows, that's nice, but I can already use other tools for that, software as a service tools, right? But for me, personally, software as a service often, I see it as a limiting factor. Of course, it plays a role. In some cases, it's very important. But the problem is that even though we all have similar workflows, let's say content management or launching a product or something, still all these workflows are unique for us, depending on our company, on our products, even on our CEO or executive board, right? The personalities involved. So these unique workflows require custom solutions. And if you're using software as a service, if you don't have some feature, that's it. You can ask for it as much as you want. You will be told by customer support that, yeah, we are looking into it, but you will never get it, right? If you use a lot of software as a service tools separately, your system is disconnected because the tools are not talking very well with each other. You can use Zapier or something else, but it's not ideal. And over time, expenses and time and so on are accumulating. While the alternative is learning one single tool. In the beginning, it's more time required, for sure. But if you do it, the beautiful thing is that you can start building your own custom software. Let that sink in. You can build your own custom software, and believe me, it's not that hard. It's maybe hard to reach the level where I'm at, but if you just learn 10% of what I know, you can already reach 50% of value. If you learn 20% of what I know, you can already reach 60 or 80% of value that you can do. Then, because majority of your workflows are on a single platform, everything is connected and talking beautifully with each other. So your whole system is beautiful as a piece of art. And, oh, it should be C, you are saving money and time because you don't need to continuously learn new and new and new tools and look for them, see what's best and so on. But the most important thing is that, for sure not for all of you, but I believe at least for some of you, this inner, as I mentioned, child, inner creator will be unleashed. And you will see that creating software is not something boring. It's a very creative process. And I see myself as actually an artist in technology. Same as people are creating sculptures, creating books, and so on. But again, Vykintas, you may ask, why are we talking about this linked data during AI Summit? What's the point, right? So here I would like to first highlight that if you don't know yet how to use ChatGPT and Midjourney, for sure prioritize that. Learn how to use, at least invest a few hours to learn how to use these tools, at least for the basics, right? But once you do, then the next step is what I'm talking about here. Because if you keep using just ChatGPT directly, or let's say Midjourney on this like forum user interface, you will not take the full potential because you will work in silos. Your workflows will be in silos because you just use this user interface. That's it. It's not connected to everything else. You will work in silo in terms of your team members because you are just alone using this tool, right? But you're not using it together as a system. So therefore, when it comes to maximizing the potential of artificial intelligence, especially in the upcoming few years, I believe the key factor will be integrating AI into your existing workflows, of course, transforming them. And another keyword is implementing AI at scale. So not just using it alone on a ChatGPT window, but implementing it at scale. And what better way to do that is if you already have most of your workflows on a relational database, right? Which is built at its core to be linked, to be connected, to talk. If you do that, then your efforts to implement AI at scale will be way, way easier. And there is a 5-step formula that I'm using when I think how to scale artificial intelligence. Sorry, I will not be able to go in detail a lot. The time is running little by little. But I will at least give you a strategic framework how to think. And later on, hopefully, we'll meet again to go more into detail. So step number 1 is standardize. Now, when you use ChatGPT or some other tool, ask yourself a question. Will I use this process again? And will I use this process often, right? Or will my team keep using a similar process? If the answer is yes, standardize. One way, simple, just for the very beginning, is to at least document on a Google Doc, right? But then the advanced level is to standardize it on your database, on Airtable, where you have your prompts on Airtable defined. You define what kind of data for this use case you need to push from your database, because you know that the more data you provide, the better generative AI output becomes, right? And you can also standardize what exact AI tools you need to use, because we are mostly talking about OpenAI ChatGPT, right? But there's also Google Bard, there's also Anthropic Claude, and many other And for some specific use cases, you may use a different tool. Once you standardize, document. So the outputs you receive from AI tools and the values you receive, document on your Airtable database. Because if you document and link everything, over time you start creating this beautiful well of wisdom that provides insights. What worked, what didn't, what exactly approach did you use in this case, and so on. And you can also repurpose and reuse particular elements that worked. And here we are going to step number 3, iterate and improve. So because everything is documented in one place, you have the prompt templates, you know what you used to get this result, right? You can little by little start iterating, improving more and more, because sometimes a small change may consistently provide much better results for whatever process you are talking about. So you iterate and improve your prompt templates. You see that, if I also push this data, because everything is linked again, then the result becomes better, and you can start interconnecting the workflows. Point number 4, align and empower. So as opposed to you just alone using a ChatGPT as, let's say, a founder, right? If you document how to do it best, you standardize, you continuously improve and iterate on a linked database, then what this means is you align and you empower all your team members and teams. So you ensure particular standards are followed and people are using GPT and other tools in the best possible manner for your business. And number 5 is enhance, when you can even little by little start adapting, let's say, Google large language models on Google Vertex, their platform, or you can do fine-tuning of OpenAI large language models to optimize it even more for specifically your use case. You would not be able to do that if you use just ChatGPT, but if you use API connection between your database and OpenAI or Google, then you can already start using these even customized models to get even better results. Anyone wants to see database AI workflow in action? Raise your hands. Yeah? Okay. This is a short video. Hope it will play. I guess I need to click once again. Okay, yeah. Does it play? I think not yet. And it's also very bad quality. Oops. Can someone try to click on the video? Because it's YouTube, so. Is it not playing? Okay, should I wait or should I carry on? Oh, okay, perfect, thank you. Maybe anyone has questions so far? Actually, so that wouldn't be just my monologue. Yes, please? Maybe someone could bring a, there, lady in yellow. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
No, it's not working. Yeah, it's, okay. So if everything is in the same database, doesn't make, how can I say this in English? Isn't it dangerous because of hackers?
Yes, there are always dangers involved, and there are particular ways how you can protect it, right? So for instance, even for our HR or legal information that is more sensitive, we have some of it on your table, but then only very few people have access to it. So let's say Vision, CHRO, and someone else. And then there are like some specific also data privacy and security actions that you can take to make sure that it's protected, right? When it comes to all other data, let's say what Vision showed about Mindvalley, Brain, our authors, and so on, there are risks involved, but I believe the value that you get as a company is much higher. Plus, in addition to that, sheets can also be leaked. Your Google Docs can also be leaked. So there are risks involved everywhere. Okay, does it play the video now? Okay. So here is maybe stop for a moment. I will explain what I'm doing here. Sorry. So this is an example of how interconnecting database with OpenAI API, you can automatically generate different copy variations for your Facebook or Instagram ads. So in this example, I took an ad, just a random example ad, right? And I set the variables. So I took the copy, this is the headline, this is something else, and then I asked AI to generate variations. Because this ad, let's imagine it's performing very well, and you need to milk it out as much as possible, right? So you can play the video. So you see, these are the different variables, the heading, the image, testimonial, body, CTA, and so on of the ad. Then I have a prompt, which is to generate different copy variations. And I just click a checkbox there. Sorry that it doesn't look nice, I didn't prepare, but now in the backend, when I click the button, it starts working, it sends information to OpenAI, and you will see magic happening now in your eyes. It of course takes little time because the information needs to walk from one place and another, but boom, you can see that suddenly artificial intelligence is generating the variations for this winning ad copy, and it generated many different potential headings. Then you can click the button another time, and it again generates whatever amount you want of copy variations for another variable. And I don't have it, you can see this is for another variable generating automatically for you. So you see magic, it's working for you. You just had a person, like a contractor, and I paid for this maybe, I know, a few cents for the API connection. And what you can do next, so in this case you saw it generates, then you can click whichever you think that, oh, it's nice, it's good, it works, and so on. Then Airtable, because the data is linked, it automatically creates you all the different potential variations. And then I have another automation where I connect it to a tool called Abyssal that even automatically creates ads for you. So this way, imagine a few clicks of a button can create for you hundreds of different variations of the same one winning ad. So imagine what kind of value you can create. And the example that I just showed, why it's not showing? I think you need to switch back to slides. The example that I just showed is a bit more technical. As I said, it involved connecting to an OpenAI API. But the good news is that it's the best time now to start learning Airtable, because they are integrating artificial intelligence directly in the database, meaning that it will be not technical at all and super simple. Let's say you have an open position for your HR, you click a button, boom, it takes data from your database and creates a job description for your job opening. Or you want to work on a new feature for your product. You click a button, boom, it takes data from the database and creates a product requirement doc for your product. And the opportunities are endless. So I believe it's the right time now to start learning not just AI tools, but working with databases and interconnect everything together. And then finally, the question is how? And I would like to talk about a few things that you should master. Unfortunately, we will not be able to go very much in detail. That will require additional trainings that I hope I will still have with you guys. But I would like to provide a 3-step formula, what to focus if I manage to inspire you today to start learning how to link the data, okay? So step number 1 is learn how to build database structure with tables and views. So here, for example, you can see a screenshot of Mind Valley University Airtable. You see it doesn't look nice. On the app it looks much nicer, but it does the job. And all these things, this line in red on top, are different tables. So you see agenda and activities. So for instance, what I'm delivering now is an activity, and it may be delivered multiple times, right, on multiple different agenda slots. So therefore, we have on agenda slots where we link to activity, we pull all the data that we need, right? Then agenda and activities may be connected to speakers, naturally. So we have a separate table for speakers. We have a separate table for track. This is an AI Summit track. We have a separate table for location where it is happening. And you can link all this data together, right? Even if you guys will be so kind to provide feedback on the Mind Valley University app for this session, what will that do? It will create a separate record on the feedback table out there. It will link directly to my agenda session, and I'll be able to improve. So thanks to you in advance. But you may say, let's take another example, not from Mind Valley, but let's imagine that we are all working in Hollywood, right? So we want to create a database for movie production. Could you maybe get ideas what kind of tables we may need if we want to produce a movie? Sorry? Actors, perfect, yes. Anything else? Please shout. Scripts, great. Locations, great. Projects, costumes, yes, very good. I didn't think about it, but true. What? Prompt makers, yes, it works. So, wow, perfect, thank you. This is how you need to think, right? First of all, when you want to create your database, you need to think about all these different data types involved. So for instance, purely in terms of project management, I would add a project or a movie, right? A table for that. Then maybe for stage, because each project should have pre-production, then filming or production, and post-production. So very huge stages by themselves, right? Then deliverable. So for instance, a huge deliverable is finding locations or sets, right? Or finishing, having the script finalized, etc. And then I would add another table for smaller deliverables, action items that you need to do on a daily basis in order to reach these deliverables. And then when you complete these deliverables, to complete the stages, and when you complete the stages, to end up with a beautiful movie, right? And then all the many things that you mentioned are additional tables that you will connect to the project management framework. So for instance, team members, who is responsible, who is for filming, production, and anything else. Actors, location sets, contractors, agencies, tickets, let's say for design team, and so on. This is how you need to think. But what I see often happening from experience, people creating too many tables where there is no need for a table. So for instance, if you have your projects of 2022 and projects of 2023, do you create one table or two tables? Someone said two. Other opinions? One. Okay. If you have projects belonging to different, having different statuses where they are, do you create separate tables or you keep it in one table? One. Someone said separate. So the right approach in this case is to have it on one table. Why? Because there are two criteria how to decide. First of all, is it the same data type? So a project, is it the same data type? It is, no matter what year it was made, in 2022 or 2023, right? But then the second criteria, if you're not sure still, is will you use most of the fields or columns in this project, in this table? Are most of these fields the same when you consider maybe to create two tables separately? If you see that most of these fields are more or less the same, then in absolute majority of cases, create a single one table. Only if you see problems, then you can split. And here what I noticed is that people often are afraid of doing that because you may end up having tens of thousands of records on one table and potentially hundreds. I have literally tables with hundreds of columns with data. So imagine how much information and how confusing it may be. And if we approach from the perspective of Sheets or Excel, you would not do that, right? Because it's not a very beautiful user interface in terms of hiding different columns or filtering information, especially if you need to work in a team. But the beautiful thing about Airtable, working with databases, is that next to having the tables, as you can see there, right, you also can create views. So what view is, it has access to all the information on this table, but you set filters which records to include, right? You set grouping, how to group that information. In this case, you see the first group is the channel, TVT, Twitter, and then we group per brand for Mind Valley or for Vision, as an example. You can set sorting and so on. And because I'm using here a table view, you can see there up, it shows 76 hidden fields. So it's very easy for me to hide whatever is not relevant for this view use case. Then the ones that I keep columns, I put them in the most optimal sequence for this use case, for all team members who will be using it, right? So you see what I'm doing? I'm kind of developing user interface for me or for my team, right? And then you create different views for different use cases or different teams, and you can use it very well no matter how much data you have there. And you can even create different views. Let's say this is a calendar view, or this is a timeline view, or this is a Kanban view. But so the data is the same in the back end, but the way you see it, the way you interact it, you make the decision. Then the step number 2 that I would focus on, once you understand very well how to build tables and use views, is how to link data and use lookups and rollups. So Vishen already showed you this visual, right? What this visual shows is all the different instances, all these different lines are examples of where the data has been linked in between different tables. So you establish link to another record field on your database. So for instance here, maybe I will not expand, but you would potentially link a project to, let's say, team members, who is the overall responsible for this project, who is the director on this project, and so on. And then you start using lookups, which is very easy once you get it. So for instance, an example here, you can see the posts for our social media. You can see all these post records are linked to a particular message, right? As I already give this example to you. And then because we have this link established, then all these other examples of columns going out there, these are automatic lookup columns that are pulling the information that you need for this specific use case. So for instance, on this post level, you can see, okay, what is the status of the message or the idea? What is the ideal live date for this post to go? It doesn't mean necessarily that you will go there, but you pull the information, what is the ideal live date. You see, let's say, reference visually, you see format, you see audience, whatever information is relevant, you can use lookups to pull it all across the workflows and the company. And this is super easy to do. Now, the more difficult part, which is confusing at first, but if you just invest a few hours and you start playing and building and feeling it, is roll-ups. But this opens up the next opportunity. So here in the example, you can see again linking, right? Just in this case, we are on a message or idea table, and you can see the posts that are linked to this message, right? And then we use roll-ups to see how many of these posts are live, how many of these posts are scheduled, how many of these posts we have in total. We can then calculate percentages to see where we stand at, and so on, right? Or, for instance, I'm pulling with the roll-up information on the total views. So I'm summing all views of all the posts linked to this message. This is what in the beginning I was showing when you roll up back the data, right? Or average views. I just used a formula average in this roll-up, and it shows the average these posts generated. Or you can see other things like reactions, anything else. So what roll-up helps you to do is to perform calculations and create aggregates from specific cells from records that are linked to another field in your table. For instance, if you're working on sales, right, you can see exactly this account, how much it generated in total, because it has linked to all the sales, right? What's the average transaction value? Boom, you can get this answer very easily. Or let's say you want to see specifically how much this account generated in the last 2 weeks. You use the roll-up and you just set the condition that where the date of the transaction is within the last 14 days. So you see the opportunities are immense because you can not just pull the information through lookups, but you can also calculate and get insights all across your workflows. And the final, step number 3, is to learn to manipulate data and establish the flow. Because when we talk about developing applications and linked data, it's all about you being able to manipulate the data to convert multiple inputs into one output and establish the flow to make sure that it travels in between. This is where the real magic happens. And for that, you use one thing, formulas, which is not new, right? You already use formulas in Google Sheets or Excel. Let's say examples here, I wrote a formula how to automatically calculate a status for for message where it is. It's released in this case or something else, right? Or let's say automatically concatenate text of multiple URLs, and so that, let's say, Vision or someone else could see, okay, what is the final video link, what is the draft video link in one field. Or, for instance, I can see post status, and it shows me right away, okay, that for this message, all posts are live. For this message, one channel is missing, meaning that a post is not even created, even though it was planned to be created, right? Or I see that 3 posts are missing, and so on. Right? So you can see if you learn how to work with formulas, you can transform the data and gain insights. And the good thing is that I know that it often sounds like it's boring, it's dry, like why would I learn these formulas, it's difficult. But the beautiful thing is that you can learn only 14 formulas based on my experience. And if you learn these 14 formulas, you can already do most of the job. And these formulas are very easy. So you can just make a picture, and if I were you and I would start now learning Airtable, I would just learn, first of all, these ones. So logical operators, if, true, false, blank, and, or, sounds difficult, but actually it's super simple. Numeric operators, self-explanatory, and how to also work with date and time, right? Date add allows you to, let's say, take a date and add 3 days. And the answer is like plus 3 days, right? Date-time difference allows you to calculate what's the difference between different dates in terms of hours, days, months, years, whatever value you may choose. And date-time format helps you to work with the data to make sure that it's not some long string of various information, but let's say you just want to see the weekday, what it is, right? Or you just want to see what is the month, or what is the quarter, or what is the date in a particular format. If you know how to use date-time format, you can do it. And these are the formulas mostly that I have been using for Mind Valley University app as well. And final thing is automations, which I will not expand, but I will just highlight one thing, that if you use Zapier, Make.com, or anything else, it's great. It's super powerful. I use it every day, especially Make.com. But often it looks nicer at the beginning than it actually is. Because you can see that, okay, this tool, this app is on Zapier, so I should be able to connect. But then often you find out that, shit, actually you can't connect, or it takes much more time. But because you have your data all on Airtable, and Airtable has amazing automations, then even when it comes to automating stuff, it becomes much easier and much more seamless. And it's very simple, always. You just set the trigger, so when this automation should be triggered and should happen, right? And then you just add the actions. Let's say to send an email, which we use for Mind Valley University, tribe event hosts, right? Or tribe speakers to communicate the information, or update a record, or create a record. Very few actions that you will use in 80% of cases. Okay, so to end, sorry for such a long monologue, hope you didn't, I saw just a few of you falling asleep a little bit, so I hope I didn't do that bad. So I'd like to come back and finish, like in circle, coming back to this question and reformulate it a bit. Can you learn to develop more advanced applications on Airtable and scale your AI workflows? Maybe not, this is not for everyone, but what I already mentioned in this presentation, that if you learn just 10% of what I learned, you will be able to get 50% of value, because diminishing marginal returns, right? If you learn 20%, the basics really well, you will be able to get 80% of value. You will need to invest some time, but if you learn how to do it, believe me, it will be transformative for you as a person and for your business, organization, project, or whatever else you care about. And my final wish is that at least some of you will get this inner child, inner creator also unleashed, and will become, next to me, an artist of technology, not seeing it as anything dry, but as something that you can live the life of creation and building in abundance on a daily basis, so that you could automate things that you don't like, potentially, right? You would become a happier person, and you would save time for the things that matter most. As in my case, for my son, I miss him a lot. He's now in Germany, and I'm very happy that I learned what I can do now with Airtable, because on a daily basis, it helps me save time, it helps me to do things that I love, and always be at my best energy and happiness level when I'm around this beautiful kid. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else feels like you drank from a fire hose? Okay, so wipe your faces. It's okay. The reason I want to mention something here. You know, I was discussing like with Vision and also some of the people who've envisioned the program. If you feel that this was too much, too strong altogether, it's by design. And here's the thing, the whole programming of AI Summit is envisioned in a way that by the end of the summit, even if you have no experience, you'll be able to create, you'll be inspired by lots of new ideas, and you will be able to create your own app in 20 minutes. That's what you will leave with. You know, so I want to seed that idea here, so you guys get it. So if it's too much information to process, good. Sit with that. We good? Yes? Okay, give your partner a high five to wake them up a little bit. Yes, some partners need more high fives. Fine. Every time we switch sessions, there's, you know, the difference between information and transformation is, I don't know if you remember, Vision said critical thinking and rate of application. These two aspects are extremely important. So every time we change sessions, it's fine. Kids, quiet. Thank you. Every time we switch sessions, you have a breather, and it's an opportunity. I would invite you to think about what is the one thing you will apply in the next 4 weeks, which is connected to your business, your vision. Okay? And before we shift gears, and we'll have Iman Obu and Naveen Jain talking about transformational ideas connected to using AI to transform your businesses. But it's important before we go there to talk about legalities. Oh my God. Hey. Okay. Who here loves dealing with the legal teams of other companies? Okay, we got to call the police. I was expecting 0 hands. Okay, except for the lawyers. Everybody else should not raise their hands. Okay, so we're going to have a 20-minute session to be mindful, because this is such an unknown territory, to be mindful of the legal implication of the things that you will be rolling out. And we have the head of legal counsel of Mind Valley live from Arizona doing a 20-minute session, so that you can envision how to roll out things and think consciously about the legal implications of them. And she's live joining us from Arizona. Okay, it's going to be a 20-minute session here. You guys ready? Yeah? You guys ready? Back home? Good. All right, can we queue up Jasmine, please? She's live. As soon as you see her on the screen, you go nuts. Back home too, you go nuts in your living room. Your parents will think you're crazy. It's all good. It's all good. Okay, can we have Jasmine? While that is happening.
Hello!
Oh, there she is. Give her a huge round of applause.
Hello, AI Summit. Okay. I am Jasmine Tyrone. I am the VP of Legal for Mind Valley. I wish I could be there with you all in person today, but I am over in the US. I'm located in Arizona. And I was actually there last week for MVU though, and had a great time. So I wish I could still be there with you all. I know you've already had some wonderful talks today and you have more exciting topics to come, but mine is not as exciting, but also incredibly important. So with that said, we're going to talk about the legalities of AI. And somebody over there is going to have to bring up my presentation and I'm going to have to tell them when to go to the next page. Okay, next slide. Okay, and I have my presentation up here too for me to follow. So AI is not new, but AI is what we are talking about today with ChatGPT, caught us incredibly quickly. And it kind of upended and changed the landscape of how we work and live. So I know I have recently started referring to ChatGPT as my coworker, and it has definitely helped me be able to do my job better and more quickly. And I found this chart fascinating as it shows just how quickly it took off. Oh, people, I think, are saying that they can't see the presentation. So I'm not sure if there's a way to get it online for everybody. I'll keep talking though while that's figured out. So this chart is fascinating because it shows that it took only 2 months for ChatGPT to reach 200 or 100 million users, which is incredible. So Instagram took 30 months. TikTok took 9 months. And like I said, ChatGPT only 2 months. So the reason why I am showing you this is that I want you to fully appreciate the speed. And people are still saying that they can't see it. So just letting you all know that. So 2 months for 100 million people for those people that can't see this chart. So let me tell you, nothing in the regulatory and legal world moves this quickly, which is why I am talking to you today. So let me see. If people still can't see, I don't know if I should be able to put it up on my screen too. I know you guys said you were going to control it for me. Okay, I think people can see now. Okay, so just because people couldn't see, so here's the one that I mentioned about the digital speed. Oh, okay. AI growth. So I had mentioned that it generally takes a while for legislation to catch up to what's going on in the world. So this is a US-based chart, but I have seen charts for other countries as well, and it's all trending the same. This chart shows the mentions of AI and machine learning from 2011 to 2020. And like I said, AI isn't new. That's why you see that these bills have been around for a while. But as AI, as of what we know today, is newer, and I expect to see this skyrocket. So between 2021 and 2022, there's been an 46% increase in AI bills. So it's even continued to go up. And I imagine that in 2023, it has exponentially expanded. So a lot of the bills can be categorized into predictive technology, consumer rights, employment, insurance, and healthcare. And a lot of those at the cusp of it would be privacy concerns and issues. And so the legal and regulatory framework has not cut up here. And so you just have to keep in mind that when you're using these technologies, it might be subject to change based on regulations. We may have to adapt and pivot and navigate. And I expect more clarity really in the next couple of years as we see the litigation come in and the regulatory framework built out. But I think we can already see trends forming that will help you and guide you in what to think about and how to think about it, and to remind you that there are frameworks in place already that we need to remember. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so here is just an overview of 5 big potential legal issues. So copyright infringement and issues, trademark infringement, defamation, privacy and data protection, and ethical implications. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of these, and then I'm going to focus on a few of the bigger hot topics that I think are in line with a lot of the other presentations that we are talking about today. So copyright infringement. AI learns what you input into it. So copyrighted material is input, and then it might also be output. So a copyright means someone owns it and they are the only ones that can reproduce it. But when it comes out, you might not realize that. So that's something you always have to be aware of what output you are getting. Trademark infringement, again, AI learns what's input into it. So a trademark may be a name or a service mark owned by someone. So let's say you're trying to create a new logo. AI doesn't necessarily respect a trademark. They don't know. And so there's a chance what AI creates for you is similar to what's out there already. So let's say you want to create a new mark and you say, I want it to be a check mark, but with some pizzazz. Well, there's nothing that won't make it come back with like a Nike checkbox. So the Nike swoosh. And so you just have to keep in mind that everything you get, you need to check for these infringement issues. Another one that's come up is defamation. So we've all heard the stories of AI creating fake news and citing fake sources. And if you go and publish that and distribute that content that's misleading and false, then you might end up in the middle of a defamation case. So there's actually one right now that was just filed in June where a radio host realized that AI was telling people, if you input his name, that he had embezzled funds from a nonprofit company. And it was completely false. There was no truth to it at all. And so he is now suing because he's pretty mad about what it potentially does to his reputation. Another big one is privacy and data protection. So this is a big concern of mine. And I would also say it's a very big concern of all the legislators out there. So when you want to write a work email better or analyze a resume, you might be inputting information on someone without realizing that you might be breaking privacy laws. So remember that most companies and people are subject to some sort of privacy laws if they're handling private information. So it's GDPR in Europe and the UK, and in the US, there's quite a few. So there's the California Consumer Privacy Act, and then there's also some that are industry specific, like, you know, the healthcare has HIPAA, and then there's some for the financial industry as well. So let's see. And then the last one is ethical implications. So this one is interesting. And obviously there can be all sorts of ethical implications, but I'm just going to focus more on from an employment and hiring bias standpoint. So AI is only as good as the information input. So AI systems can potentially perpetuate bias. And it's something that you need to keep in mind if you're using it to analyze people. Okay, next slide. So copyright issues. So this is such an interesting area, and there are copyright concerns when thinking about how AI systems are learned, so the input of it, and then also the output of it. What you receive might also have copyright implications. And then on top of that, if you create something in AI, there's always the question of, are you able to copyright it? If you put your time and effort into making something, but used AI as well, are you able to copyright that? Okay, next slide. Okay, so aren't these monkeys cute? The big question that has come up with AI is how much human contribution is needed in order to own a copyright? And this actually, obviously the AI stuff is a little newer, but before all of these AI questions came about, a monkey was actually paving the way in some areas that can answer some of today's AI questions. So I wanted to start with this. So these cute little monkey selfies are not copyrighted. That is why they are allowed to be on my attorney presentation. So why are they not copyrighted? Because a non-human cannot own a copyright. So this was an actual court case, and that was established. So these monkeys could not own the copyright. So what does that mean here in today's landscape? That non-humans cannot own a copyright. So AI machines cannot own a copyright. And this is for the US, but it's also pretty broad throughout the whole world. Everybody's pretty much on the same page here. There has been a couple exceptions, like South Africa's laws are a little bit different. And then, you know, some places in Asia, I think it's Japan and China, it's up for debate a little bit as to what they're going to do. So additionally, a human was behind these monkey selfies. So could the human own the copyright because they meet the human element requirement? And you see his argument was he had to establish himself in the monkey tribe. He had to be with them for 14 hours a day. He set up the camera. He made sure the lighting was good. And he said it was his placement and his eye that led to these selfies. So as I said at the beginning, though, these selfies were not copyrighted. So what does that mean? The human element was not enough. And so the question remains, how much human contribution is needed? And I know this is probably where you guys are all waiting for me to give you an answer that you can take away. And the best answer I can give you is, I don't know, because it's not established. And so my advice to you all is to document what your human elements are. And this is why you also really need to think about how you're using AI. Okay, next slide. So bringing it to today's landscape, this is a super interesting case, and it's the same question of how much human contribution is needed. So Zarya of the Dawn is a book with all images created by Midjourney. So there's an example of that photo right there. You can also guess this isn't copyrighted because an attorney's using it on her slides. So Zarya of the Dawn was formally submitted to the US copyright registration. And it was granted. And it was granted for two things. Number one, for the entire work, meaning the book. So that's the layout, the text, and the images all together. And then the second was the images themselves. So someone let the office in on the news that the images were created by Midjourney, and the office actually came back to cancel the registration unless human authorship was shown, which they could not show because they were completely made by Midjourney. So in the end, the protection of the images was revoked. They said you cannot copyright images. There was no human element to it. But here's the interesting part. The entire work, so the layout of the text and the images themselves, were fine, and they stayed copyrighted. And so you can probably guess why, because it was a human who made the layout of the text and the images and the book itself. Okay, so next slide. So the US Copyright Office actually came out afterwards with a couple statements that I think are incredibly helpful. And they said, when an AI technology determines the expressive elements of its output, the generated material is not the product of human authorships. They also said, applicants have a duty to disclose the inclusion of AI-generated content in a work submitted for registration and provide a brief explanation of the human author's contributions to the work. So my overall tip here is document the human element. That is the key to being able to get a copyright on it. I think of AI as another tool in the toolbox, right? Even though the AI technology is new, think about it in past ways too. You know, you would do research with books or, you know, different articles to create things. So AI is just another tool, but there has to be that human element attached to it. Okay, next slide. Heart on My Sleeve. So this was actually a popular song for a couple weeks in April. And on April 4th, there was a song with AI generated vocals to sound like Drake and The Weeknd that came out. By April 17th, it was taken down because Universal Music Group was successful in getting it taken down, claiming copyright infringement. So this actually doesn't give us a lot of answers because they got it off on a technicality because they said that there was a line in the song that was copyrighted. And so that's the reason why it was taken down. It actually had nothing to do with the AI generated vocals. So that still hasn't been decided. And I think that that's an interesting thing to think about with what the Beatles are now doing, or Paul McCartney came out to say that they are going to release a final song using AI and that they extricated John Lennon's voice. I don't know how this will play out. There's so many potential issues, and I think it will be interesting to follow. So the first thing is the extrication of the voice. You can imagine right now people are trying to protect their voices. So singers, actors, actresses, I think we'll see legislation and some regulation around this, but the regs haven't caught up. So this could be an issue unless, let's say, hypothetically, everybody signed off on this. Nobody had a problem with, John Lennon's voice being extricated. So then the next question would become, is it a copyright issue because they used AI to create it? So I don't know if there will be an issue or not, but I think it's going to be interesting to follow because I can definitely see people trying to use this song, let's say in their advertisements and saying, well, it's not copyrighted because they used AI. And so we can use it. They can't claim the song as theirs. And so that could be a potential court case that could make a difference and kind of show us where we are going in this, world. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so I have kind of focused so far on output, but there's also a whole other element of everything that has been input into the AI systems for training. And there's actually some lawsuits happening right now that I think will also give, some clarity at some point, but they haven't gone through the system yet. So one of the big ones is there's a case against Stability AI, Midjourney, and DeviantArt. So this is a class action filed by a class of visual artists, and they allege that companies used artwork without permission to train AI algorithms. Then there's another case by Getty against Stability AI. They allege that Stability AI copied 12 million images to train its AI model without permission or compensation. And it's very interesting because Getty has actually licensed its images for AI training for other sources. And I also just wanted to show the difference between the Getty images that I thought was interesting. So the left picture is the original photo and the right is what AI came out with. So they still have a little work to do on some of these pictures. All right, next slide. Privacy issues. So the next big topic is